Well, welcome to the 700 Club, and thanks so much for joining with us. I am finally back. It's been 3.5 weeks that I've been out with shoulder surgery. I fell on a trip to Iceland back in June, and me being very stubborn, I was like, okay, God's going to heal this. Everything's going to be fine. And so July comes, and then August it starts to feel better, and then September it starts to feel worse. And, of course, I'm stubborn, and I don't go to see any doctor. Finally, in November, the pain was so much, I got to see an orthopedist, so I did. And Dr. Kevin Bonner, who's just absolutely wonderful, here with Jordan Young in Virginia Beach. If you ever have shoulder problems, he's the guy to see. So he took me under his wing and fixed my wing, and I got a little fluid in my lungs from a nerve block, and so that's why it's taken me so long to get back. You can still hear it a little bit in my voice, but it's great to be back, and it's great to be with you.
It's great to have you back. You know, a lot of people were asking, and is Gordon okay? Is Gordon okay? So I know Andrew was filling in. I wasn't okay, but thanks for your prayers. Yes, keep the prayers coming.
Yeah, I've got another 3 weeks of this sort of rehab with a sling, and then another 3 months after that. So, but at the end of that journey, I'll have a wonderfully working shoulder.
Yes.
So I was out 3.5 weeks, Ashley. Anything happen in the world while I was gone?
Lots of things happened. Lots and lots
Did I miss
of
anything?
things. And maybe a few things, but I think you know about them.
One thing I didn't miss, and I encourage you to watch, I saw it on Tuesday's show, there's a wonderful interview, a whole series between Ashley and Terry. It was absolutely delightful. You can watch it yourself on the CBN Family app. Don't turn away from the show right now, but I do encourage you.
Later.
It is absolutely delightful. We need to get a whole show with the two of them. It's just, it was wow. It was sparkling television.
Oh my goodness,
so,
Terry's a gem, and it was an honor to have a conversation with her like that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well,
all right.
We got some news for you.
Yes, we do.
And we're going to go to Israel. The Trump administration has confirmed it's negotiating directly with Hamas. And at the same time, President Trump issued a new ultimatum to the terror group: release all the hostages or it is over for you.
Well, the latest threat comes after President Trump met with a group of freed hostages in the Oval Office earlier this week. CBN's Chuck Holton reports.
The White House confirmed Wednesday that it is engaged in secret direct negotiations with Hamas over the release of American hostages held in Gaza. Officials defended the talks as part of a broader effort to protect Americans.
And look, dialogue and talking to people around the world to do what's in the best interest of the American people is something that the president has proven is what he believes is good faith effort to do what's right for the American people.
After 33 hostages were released in recent weeks, 59 still remain captive in Gaza. President Trump met with recently released hostages in the Oval Office yesterday, who thanked him for his efforts.
I was starved and I was tortured. You are the reason I am home alive.
In a social media post, President Trump called Hamas sick and twisted, calling on them to release the hostages or there will be hell to pay.
People don't realize the president meets with these people. He hears their stories. He's outraged, and rightfully so. He's tired, and he's lost his patience with it.
Hamas responded it will only free the remaining hostages when there's a permanent ceasefire. In Israel, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi officially stepped down as the IDF Chief of Staff. In his farewell speech, he reflected on the challenges faced during his tenure.
This is my shift, and what happened is my responsibility. I would have preferred, of course, that none of this had happened.
Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir is taking over, promising to bring victory to Israel and ensure the nation's security.
We will not forgive or forget. We will pursue our enemies and overtake them.
Meanwhile, in a strong message to the United Nations, a Syrian activist called out regional governments that support terrorism while condemning Israel.
And I want to testify before God and you, Israel is not the problem. I ask Qatar, why did you finance terror? Iran, why do you send billions to Hamas and Hezbollah instead of liberating your own people who are suffering oppression and poverty? Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, be a better Arab, be a better Muslim.
The U.S. is redesignating the Iran-backed Houthi rebels as a foreign terrorist organization. They face new U.S. sanctions aimed at cutting off funding and weapons. From Jerusalem, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
In my time off, I spent a lot of time in the book of Deuteronomy, and in particular in chapter 32, it's the prayer, the Song of Moses. In there's the verses that we quote, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord." But in that, "I will avenge your blood." He is watching over Israel. Israel is the apple of his eye. And when these nations gang up against her and fund these terrorist attacks that seem to never end, and the ideology of hatred that seems to never end, they never want to have peace with Israel. When you hear that phrase, "from the river to the sea," what that means is wiping out every Jew in Israel and wiping Israel off the map, replacing it with one state, a Palestinian state. That's the goal of Hezbollah. That's the goal of Hamas. That's the goal of Iran. That's the goal of even the Palestinian Authority. And they say one thing in English on a world stage. They say an entirely different thing. We had a wonderful report. It was, I call it wonderful because it's eye-opening, but at the same time, it's horrific. In their mosques, they're asking Allah to number the Jews so that they could be wiped out. That's what their prayer is. So it's about time the Western world, the so-called free world, wakes up to this and says, not on our watch. We vowed after the Holocaust never again. And here, right in our own generation, in our own time, we're seeing an attempt at a Holocaust again, to wipe Israel off the map. We need to stand with Israel. I'm very proud of the administration for being very, very strong on this. But until Hamas gives up all arms, gives up authority over Gaza, and releases all the hostages, we need to keep whatever pressure we can bring, we need to bring it and bring it with force. In other news, a U.S. senator sends a message to foreign students in America. If you attack a Jewish student, you're going home. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon, and welcome back. The Anti-Defamation League reports more than 10,000 anti-Semitic acts have been recorded here in the United States since the October 7th attacks on Israel. Many of those incidents have been on college campuses. CBN's Lori Johnson tells us what some lawmakers are doing to reduce that number.
While citing anti-Semitic acts that have occurred at synagogues, community centers, and public places, a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing focused on how especially bad it is on college campuses. Senator Ted Cruz featured this CBN News story to make his point.
Here is one picture taken on the campus of Columbia. In the back are Jewish students waving American flags and Israeli flags. In the front is a Columbia student wearing a mask because these cowards are oh so brave they cover their faces, holding a handwritten sign that says Al-Qassam's next targets. Al-Qassam is the military branch of Hamas. Understand what this student is saying. She is calling for the murder of her Jewish classmates.
You tell me to go away, tell them to go away.
Anti-Israel protests continue, like this one at New York's Barnard College, which started last week and are still causing disruptions and fear.
It's not only anti-Israel, but it's anti-American, and it goes against everything that a university should be tolerating.
President Trump posted on Truth Social that federal funding should stop for any college that allows illegal protests. Republicans at the hearing agreed, also saying the State Department should revoke student visas of foreign nationals who harm Jews.
Why don't we write into the process a condition of the visa that if you assault a Jewish student on campus, you're out of here, you're gone.
One witness said President Trump is the greatest ally Israel has had in the White House, while another criticized the current administration.
I wouldn't say the Trump administration has caused anti-Semitism. Has there been an increase since Trump has entered office? Yes.
Do you see a causal connection there?
Yes.
Why?
Trump has highlighted and platformed neo-Nazis and white supremacists.
Still others say Congress needs to take action.
The law is a powerful motivating tool, and we need to begin using it to give administrators the backbone to hold accountable those who are engaging in this Jew hatred.
A new poll shows 74% of Jewish college students say anti-Semitism is a serious problem on campus. 87% say anti-Israel protests and petitions lead to hate crimes. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Lori. Well, the Supreme Court dealt a blow to the Trump administration Wednesday. The justices supported a lower court's authority to order the government to pay nearly $2 billion in foreign aid to contractors for work already completed, despite the president's executive order putting a 90-day pause on international aid. The 5-4 ruling is a setback as President Trump faces more than 100 lawsuits challenging his policies. Well, the president reportedly is ready to take steps towards abolishing the Department of Education, possibly as soon as today. The draft executive order directs newly confirmed Education Secretary Linda McMahon to begin plans for dismantling the department. The order acknowledges that it takes an act of Congress to shut down a federal agency, but it calls for the secretary to take all necessary steps as permitted by law to prepare for the closure. Well, a young boy's struggle with autism and a rare bone disease are central to a new film about faith and fatherhood. The Unbreakable Boy is inspired by one father's true story, searching for strength when his long-awaited son is born with a debilitating diagnosis. CBN's Ephraim Graham has this look at the film, which stars Zachary Levi in the role of the father, Scott Lorette.
Here's a true fact. Sometimes a sad moment feels happy.
It's an incredible spirit spilling off the screen from young Austin in the film The Unbreakable Boy. He's far from broken, even with autism and brittle bone disease. You could say he actually helps to heal those struggling around him, especially his father, Scott Lorette, a role played by actor Zachary Levi.
What was the challenge bringing it to the screen for you?
I can relate to so much of it. You know, I've gotten lost in darkness plenty of times in my life. I've gotten lost in not loving myself. You know, I only learned 7.5 years ago that I didn't love myself, that for 37 years of my life, I was unaware of what that concept even meant. And, you know, fortunately, I had a breakdown that led me to life-saving therapy. And then that really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I needed to work on in my life, specifically, you know, starting with loving myself. And so I was able to apply so much of that to what, you know, Scott's journey was in this film.
I'm Austin, but you can call me Oz Man. Welcome back, everybody!
Jacob Laval plays Austin.
Do you want to fly?
Yeah!
Jacob, what was the challenge playing Austin?
The biggest challenge playing Austin was probably, he has like a wide emotional range that we see from him in the film. Austin, we see him at like the highest of highs when he drinks that milkshake and he thinks it's the greatest milkshake ever.
This milkshake is perfection.
But then we also see him at the lowest of lows when he gets into like a fight with his brother and then he gets taken to the mental institution. And I've never really had any acting roles that challenged me that much where I had to portray both those.
Jacob overcame those challenges when he connected with his fellow cast members and the crew behind the scenes.
What do you remember most about this film?
I'd say the most I remember is probably like the fun memories I had filming the movie, being on set and off set with other people. I got to bond with other people.
Zach, do you see yourself in Scott?
I think that I see all of us in everyone, you know, like like not that we don't all have our individual journeys and paths and we, you know, obviously we all have our differences, clearly, and I think that's part of the beauty of life, that God creates us all to be unique and individual.
Are you sure that that's the right hat for your first day?
Don't be a goober, Daddy-o. The Mountain Dew Code Red of hats. And the best part is, the chicks dig it.
Oh, dude.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Looks like a heartwarming, family-friendly film. Gordon?
Looks like a wonderful film, and let me just echo what was said in that piece. Yes, we're all made of one blood. When we look at all the differences around us, the differences in skin color and culture and language and all of those things, when you get down to the core of it, and this is not just the Bible, this is medical science, we all have the same blood. There are different blood types, but at the end of the day, We're all made of one blood, all the nations to dwell upon the face of the earth. The more we can recognize that, then we don't have excluded groups. We don't have groups, well, you know, there's us and then there's them. And particularly when you look at anyone who's got either learning disabilities or handicaps, you go, well, you're one of us too. And we're all of the same blood. What a wonderful movie. What a wonderful message for the world today.